Wes Towers is CEO of Uplift 360, a company that builds high-performing, brand-driven websites for construction and related industries. Uplift 360 combines research-led design with continuous optimization to drive traffic, leads, and growth. At Uplift 360, your website isn't just built, it's engineered to perform. And welcome to another episode of Freelancer Training on how to find more direct clients, a podcast hosted by myself, Jason Willis-Lee. This is the show that makes digital marketing easier and more fun using the perfect combo and just the right dose of business strategy and tech. I'm your host, Jason Willis-Lee, and I'm a digital marketing enthusiast, medical translator, as you know. And today I'm very thrilled to welcome my special guest. His name is Wes Towers of Uplift. And Wes brings a very unique perspective to our discussion. Wes, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thanks so much, Jason. Yeah, really well, thank you. It's the end of the day for me, 8 p.m. So been a productive day. So I appreciate the time to talk to you today.
It's late for you in Australia. I appreciate you sticking around to talk to me late. It's 12 o'clock here in Madrid. So that's quite a big, about as big as the difference gets with podcast guests. Yeah, can you just start an icebreaker? Tell us about your business and how your personal and business profile and how you got into what you're doing today.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be a long story, but I'll tell you some of the interesting parts and highlights, and the most interesting parts are probably the lessons learned the hard way, realistically. But to start, I got into the website design and SEO industry a little bit by accident, really. It was in the 90s when I was choosing my career path, and websites weren't really a thing. Well, they were, but not for every small business. But I chose to do graphic design slash multimedia at uni. Got my first job in a marketing company in Sydney. It was the Olympics year in the year 2000, the first job. And they'd never designed a website. So this was an award-winning Sydney marketing company, never designed a website. They only had one computer connected to the internet, one email address. It was a dial-up modem. The world has changed dramatically in marketing since I started in the year 2000. But they won a project to do a website design, and they said, "Well, you're the young guy, and you've just come out of uni. You better figure out how to build this website." So that was the first thing I had to do, learn the hard way to build that first website, and from there it grew. So from there on, I was doing all their websites, and things evolved, and eventually started my own business doing that very thing. But starting business, super naive to business. I knew my skill set. I knew how to design websites, but I didn't know how to run a business at all. So, yeah, it was a lot of heartache and a lot of, hard lessons learned in those early days. But we got there, and the business has been going 20 years now. So I made it.
Congratulations. So Wes, what are the biggest mistakes, like the two or three biggest errors that you see businesses making with their websites, and how costly can those mistakes be today in the AI era?
Yeah, well, things are changing so fast, and so there's an idea around right now with AI and things, and people just interacting with the online space so much differently than even a couple of years ago. There's the there's the perceived threat that people won't need websites anymore. I don't see that as a genuine thing, because people will always need to either go to a physical shop front to make a transaction if they want to buy something, or they'll go to the digital shop front, which is your website typically. So when it's a larger investment or transaction, they're going to do their research. They're going to visit the company website. They're going to make sure they're making the right decision before they part way with their money. However, on the research front end, when they're just dabbling and trying to figure out what they need, they're not necessarily needing to visit your website anymore. They're getting the answers on Google itself. So they'll search for what they need, and this AI overview will have the answer, or they're jumping on ChatGPT, they get the answer there. There's less need to visit a website to get their information and research. But that's not to say the information in your website isn't useful. It's there for another purpose. There will be human readers, but it's there to train the AI. So that AI is pulling the information from somewhere online. May as well be your business website, and maybe you'll get some brand mentions and some following. And we're talking about search engine optimization in a whole new way. We're talking about search everywhere optimization, because it is everywhere that people are finding businesses these days.
So what about SEO, Wes? Is it still relevant today? And how, with AI changing sort of daily, finding clients, as you just said, service providers, is SEO
Yeah.
still relevant? And is there a smarter way that language service providers can direct and force traffic to their online assets than the way we've been doing it in the last few years?
Yeah, well, the good news is that the same principles that applied for SEO still apply now. Um, Over the years, there were tricky little things that people did to manipulate Google and other search engines to get traffic and so on. But those things eventually they always got weeded out by Google. They'd figure out what's going on, tinker with the algorithms, adjust, and because they were trying to get their best information to the people searching for that information. That's still relevant, but not necessarily for Google. It's more we're calling it search everywhere optimization. So it's information that will might be picked up by ChatGPT, for example, or any of the other large language models might glean that information. So, but you really want to have your message. You want to have an authentically unique message that's yours. A niche market is ideal if you can have one because then you can own that space. You can be the expert in that field and get recognized as the authority in that space. So that's the ideal. And then to syndicate that message as far and as wide as you possibly can. So through your own platform. So your website is territory you control, but then your social platforms you control to a degree. You control your channel, but it's just so noisy out there. So many distractions. You really want people in the less noisy spaces. Your website, your shop front, um, ideally. But yeah, to be engaging wherever you possibly can. So this is why podcasting is powerful, and that's realistically why I do this sort of thing. It's a collaboration with the host. So the host and the guest is producing something of hopefully of value to the world, of the audience, and then they're both collaborating to share it. Certainly in my case, I always share the podcasts I guest on through my social platforms. So that information is being syndicated far and wide to different audiences and reaching new people. So that's the way you've got to kind of think about it. What message can I share, and how do I spread that message as far, as wide, and as cost effectively as I possibly can? So yeah, that's what I would
What
say.
what about Google indexing, Wes? Because we did a previous episode on Google indexing. Surely that's the first step. It's sending Google your asset. This is my asset, and then tracking the performance and doing this quite intentionally.
Yeah.
Can you give us some tips on Google indexing? How do we use Google Search Console to keep an eye on our traffic?
Yeah, so and you will if you're that way inclined to look at Search Console, you'll probably see a whole bunch of pages and blog posts that don't even get any traffic whatsoever. That's completely normal, um, and it's nothing to worry about. Everyone's getting a little, well, sometimes a lot less traffic to their website simply because the answers are being met, particularly in that research phase, without people needing to visit your website. But when it's time to make a transaction, they still do. But to get ranked, really basic principles apply. Yes, you've got to build all the foundations right. So the website needs to be fast loading. It needs to be simple for Google or AI to understand the content. So the content is really the key, but a simple structure and a framework that is easy for the end user to also read. Google really don't like, for example, text that's difficult to read because there's visually impaired people. So you've got to consider that your message is easily digestible and understandable for the end human user, and that realistically is probably going to align with where Google and AI is taking us because they want the very best information to surface. That's what they're trying to achieve. So, to future-proof yourself, create great content, and you should be future-proofing for SEO or search everywhere optimization as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Impact driven content is one of the things I talk about. So why do so many, I know you work in a different niche of construction, but our niche is language service provision. Why do so many niche businesses still struggle to stand out online? It's a sea of the sameness, especially in the current economic climate and the AI climate. How do you advocate using online assets to be a differentiator for businesses? How can we get what I call a talk aboutable edge, this sort of edge over the competition and becoming a category of one, just having a framework. You mentioned an
Yeah.
authority framework earlier on. how can you give us some tips on just being just getting that differentiator down really clearly, so there is no competition effectively. The competition is blown out the water.
Yeah, I love that the phrase you put it, the category of one. That's a magic experience if you can achieve it. Um, the way that I help clients oftentimes with that sort of scenario is they often find it easier to express their frustrations with their industry and to describe, and these are behind closed door conversations, so they can freely express what potentially their competitors are doing that they believe are unhelpful and not the best way, and why that sort of sets a passion in them that what they do is different. And those few little key things that are genuinely unique to them are the key pillars that you really need to drive, because everyone else is communicating the common, the average of everybody, of the industry best practice, whatever it is. But your little piece of the puzzle that's different, that's the one piece that you must make sure people understand. And yes,
Mhm.
it might be polarizing. It might be that some people it just doesn't resonate, but they were never going to be great clients for you anyway. The few that do resonate really powerfully with it, they're gonna lead to a sale faster because they really engage with who you are. It might be around your personal brand even. So there might be as small businesses, usually our company is a reflection of who we are. So think about how you show up in the world, how you express yourself, what's important to you, and how do you massage those kind of brand messaging into your company website as well. So that's an easier way to be authentically you in a small business.
Wes, can you give our audience, one practical tip on using the website as a lead generating tool? So it's a visual, it's obviously an online business card. How can it generate leads? Can you just tell us that, people can just go off and look at their websites immediately, plug this piece of insight knowledge into their businesses? How can it be used as a lead generating tool? Would it be through an opt-in? Would it be through another way, a free download? Tell us how to do that.
There's different approaches depending on the niche in which you serve. So if you're serving a clientele who the decision maker is like an admin person within a company, and they're just setting out to get three quotes, they're always going to get three quotes because that's what they do. Then you've got to set up your business in a way that allows them to request quotes quickly and easily. I see that the mistake in that instance oftentimes is we'll inherit websites that we work on, and we can see they've built a really sophisticated quote request form, but there's just so many fields it becomes overwhelming. And you got to remember, it's not it's just often just an admin person within a company filling in this form, and they're frustrated. They're just going to jump to the easiest solution and a simple form. So you want to create the least resistance possible. Sometimes, so lead magnets can be powerful. So if you're giving something of value, of perceived value in exchange for an email address, that's great if you can build your email list. But the counter of that is people are sort of realizing it's not free. What you're downloading is not free. You're going to end up getting information. Now, if you've built something that people want to engage with, well, they'll do it. But if they're a little bit reluctant, then there's a bit too much resistance. So it's really a balancing act, what you want to achieve, the nature of your business. It's great to build a really solid email marketing list if you can. But sometimes, depending on the process of who's requesting who's making the order, if it's an admin person in a company, well, they don't want you download your free ebook. They just want to get the proposal. What you know depends on the nature of the thing. So simplifying, just create the least amount of resistance as possible. Things have got to be in the right places. Phone number,
Mm.
if it's in the top right, brand on the top left, menu at the top. If people have learned to expect things in certain places. Contact would be your last menu item because that's where we all know it should be. So just so people can navigate your website really quickly, get the information they want, and engage with you as a human would ordinarily.
So reducing the friction on the quote request form, that's what you're saying. So the key fields, I think, for us would be the niche of the document you want translated, the number of words maybe, and the date by which you want the translated. I mean, that's it. You need three fields. I mean, can't think of any more fields to add other than those. That just keeps it super simple. And the second question, you
Yeah.
mentioned email list. I mean, I have an email list and I teach people how to build an email list. Most of us are service providers. Wes, would you advocate building an email list by service providers, or is it just for people who go into productized services like courses, books, and that kind of thing?
I definitely, if it's possible, always build an email list as long as you've got the capability or capacity to engage with the list. Because I see all the time, we often have mechanisms to build a list in someone's company through the website, but they just let it go, and they might have thousands in there, but they're just not engaging with it nearly enough. And that's the bigger risk. You'll get lots of unsubscribes. In actual fact, if you email too not enough because they forget who you are. But if you're emailing fairly frequently, you'll find the stats say you'll get less unsubscribes. So that's an interesting thing that we often think about it the other way around. But if you can create in your business a reason to be in regular contact with your clients, that's really gold because then they're hearing from you all the time anyways.
Mm.
And then that's client. So if you've got a retainer based something, and even if it's a smaller sale, like a smaller item that you need to be engaged with on a monthly basis or quarterly basis, maybe you're selling your translation service, but you're offering a quarterly checkup of whatever it is, you've got a reason to engage with them and they'll see perceived value when the email hits their inbox. Now, they might not take up that extra something that you're offering quarterly, but they're still seeing your brand. They're seeing you mentioned. Next time they do need something, they're more likely to engage with you.
What is your favorite email marketing platform, Wes? Yesterday, I was on a call with a friend and colleague of mine who has a 10K list, and he's
Yeah.
paying €300 a month for Pipedrive, which is 3.6K a year, very expensive. Active Campaign is a similar price. What would you advise him? Because I was going to get back to him today on this topic. How
Yeah.
could he reduce the cost of his email marketing? Is there another platform that would work more economically for a
Yeah.
10K list? Because he's got a large list.
Yeah, once the lists get, and so we had this experience, exactly what you're saying, a few years ago now, but nearly everyone was using MailChimp back then, and still a lot of clients do use MailChimp.
Correct.
But once your
Yes.
list gets a bit bigger, it kind of gets expensive. So a lot of people had moved to MailerLite, which was a far more cost-effective solution. You can do your sequences and everything in there. Maybe not as sophisticated. What was the one you mentioned? Active
I
Campaign, was it?
mentioned Pipedrive, which is what he's using, and I think
Yeah,
Active Campaign is a similar price. I use Kit, my formerly Convert Kit. But other
yeah,
programs you mentioned good for 10K lists? I understood they were just free programs for smaller size email list sizes.
yeah. So MailerLite would be the one I would say. The what I use Go High Level, not just for the email marketing. I did email newsletters for a long time, but I flipped it and I wanted them to look just like regular emails.
Hmm.
Because I'd seen clients do the same and they were getting far greater engagement just because it didn't feel salesy anymore. It just felt like an authentic email. So I did that as well, and through Go High Level because I manage a whole bunch of things through that platform as well. Super cheap, and yeah, I've got my phone through there and all sorts of things going on. So it's a great platform.
Fantastic. Okay, just a few quick fire questions, Wes. We ask all our guests these questions. Um, What's one online visibility tip that you sort of practice that you practice daily? What's one online visibility sort of mantra that's really sort of ingrained in your daily routine with your clients, with yourself, with your own business, and
Yeah,
then that you extrapolate for your clients? What's one sort of practice that you do daily? Practice.
yeah. Not so much daily, but weekly is a good goal, even monthly for some clients. But to publish fresh, unique content regularly to your website through
Mm,
your blog,
yeah,
effectively. Google love something new because it's a signal to them it's still relevant. And
yeah.
even if that particular post doesn't rank very well, it's a signal that you're still trading, you're still doing, you're still active. So that's what I'd say.
What's the best business advice you've ever received, Wes? Best
Oh,
business
that's a
advice.
best business advice, man. I've had so much business advice over the years. Um, I think the niching thing, that was something that someone shared with me, and it felt counterintuitive and a bold decision, but he was right. It was the best thing I ever did.
Have you heard the expression, the riches are in the niches? I think Pat Flynn says this. The riches are in the niches. You have to niche down.
Yeah,
One of my lead magnets
yeah,
is all about niching down, just going
yeah.
deeper, not broader. What's just one word? What's the first word that comes into your mind when I say AI, artificial intelligence? What's the first word that just comes to mind for you?
Artificial.
Artificial,
Artificial.
that's a good one.
Well, that's one of the
Yeah,
words from it. People
yeah,
forget it's artificial. It's not real. It's not authentic.
non-human. Non-human.
Yeah.
Wes, what's the worst investment you've ever made? Maybe a business investment, maybe an investment in your personal life, your asset management. What's
That's
the worst investment? Something to avoid.
Yeah, oh, when I was a kid, I invested in some shares because a friend of mine, he thought he knew the share market, and I invested all my money, which might have been $1,000 at the time, and it all disappeared.
Oh, no. I think we've all had experiences like that. Wes, thank you so much for your time. What is one key takeaway from this conversation? We touched on quite a few things, email marketing, lead magnets, SEO. What's one final takeaway that you'd like to share with our audience? Would it be publishing recent content or would it be something else, another insight?
Yeah, well, just I suppose that we've covered a lot, I feel, but it feels like business is changing really fast, and there's huge threats. Obviously, AI has the potential to wreak havoc in businesses if we don't stay nimble. So I would say just stay flexible in this time because we no one really knows precisely where we're going to end up in a few years' time. So just keep reading the opportunities and taking just being brave and taking opportunities as they come to hand.
Wes, where can my listeners connect with you and learn more about your work and your business? Where's the best place to do that?
Yeah, our website, uplift360.com.au. From there, you'll find all our socials and everything as well. So that's the best thing.
All right, we'll get that out in the show notes. All right, let's wrap it up for today's episode of Freelancer Training on how to find more direct clients. Stay tuned for more engaging discussions on the ever-evolving landscape of language provision and digital marketing. Until next time, remember what I always say, stay on your game and don't forget to future-proof your career in the AI digital era. Bye from me and my guest, Wes Towers, and I'll see you next episode. Bye for now.
Here's a fun fact about Jason. Jason is a big Back to the Future fan. Thanks for tuning in to the How to Find More Direct Clients Than You Can Poke a Stick At podcast. We'll be back soon. In the meantime, why not head over to www.entrepreneurialtranslator.com to access all our tools and resources to monetize and future-proof your freelance translation business. And don't forget to hit the plus button in Apple Podcasts or iTunes, or subscribe in Spotify to be notified when new episodes drop. For regular tips and insights, business strategy, or marketing techniques straight to your inbox, please sign up at www.entrepreneurialtranslator.com.